Welcome to the True Love Secrets Revealed online summit. Today we have with us the most beautiful and talented Anya Grace. She is a spiritual mentor and energy healer and works with women all over the world, including Hong Kong, South Africa, Norway, Taiwan, Australia, and the UK. She founded Elevated Women in 2015, which is an online platform holding a compilation of programs and trainings, teachings from a sacred lineage of the divine feminine wisdom. Welcome to the show, Anya.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
So let's start right to it in your zone of genius. I love that you work with feminine energy and you're so passionate about that area. So, what are the misconceptions around feminine energy and dating that some women may have?
Yeah, so I've been in this field for quite a while. I've been able to see some of the trends that have happened in our journey of empowerment as women. And I would say that at a certain point in our journey, about 5 years ago, the concept of feminine energy and masculine energy was actually just coming up to the surface and becoming normalized in our vocabulary. More and more people were talking about it, but it was still foreign to certain individuals. Now we're kind of at a place where we've all heard those terms, which is great because there's more education around it. There was also a time when we as a society and culture as women have been so pushed into our masculine energy that we needed to learn how to step back and embody our feminine energy. And I think that every woman, even today, can use some awareness of just how much of a tendency it is to go back into our masculine energy, just with the way society is set up, having to work and provide for ourselves. If you're single and you're not with a man who is like providing everything, just that alone, our bodies are not necessarily designed to hold that kind of stress. So this is just a little science fact, but a man's body holds more testosterone, which is obviously, but testosterone and cortisol are tied and connected. So a man actually has a higher ability to hold stress than women because of the levels of testosterone, which also correlates to cortisol, and cortisol is what allows us to handle stress. So we are out here, basically working the same kind of lifestyle as most men these days. And yet our bodies are not designed physiologically to handle that kind of stress. So just that alone in our current culture makes it a little bit challenging for us to be in our feminine energy because we have these responsibilities that we used to not have. So that being said, there used to be this great push of, come back into your feminine energy, learn about feminine energy. And I think that is really important. And we also need to be aware that we can take that too far. And sometimes a lot of my clients are so concerned that they're not in their feminine energy. And if they were just, a little bit more feminine, then the guy would want them or commit to them or be attracted to them. And that mindset right there is we really want to avoid that because it's reversing the power. It's putting it's putting men basically on a pedestal when we need to put ourselves on that pedestal and realize that we are here to be supported by them. They are here to prove themselves to us. We don't need to we don't need to do more to get their love. In fact, we need to do way less and see how they show up. So that's how I want to start it.
Right. That's very, very, very interesting. I love what you said. It's, as you said, there is a big conversation around feminine energy and masculine energy, but it's still kind of new. So I can see what you said, to be true, that it's confusing right now. could be confusing for some people. So what are some of the pitfalls that women have been conditioned in the modern era of dating?
Yeah. So kind of like what I was talking about, we've really been programmed. And okay, so certain things that used to not be normal are now normal. For example, going 50-50 in a relationship dynamic is normal for some people. You may hear that and you're like, well, that's not my preference, but it's not like this foreign idea for anyone anymore.
Right.
The fact that going 50-50 in a relationship is not foreign to any of us shows how normalized it's become. And we need to be aware of that, because we get to ask ourselves at this point, we're always on this journey. Like, I feel like as an individual, as individuals, we're all healing and growing, but also as a society, we're collectively healing and growing, and we're figuring out what works and we're figuring out what doesn't work, and we're pivoting and adjusting. So we move toward this more like flatline polarity, equality,
Right.
but we have to ask ourselves, is that really working? The number of women who have gynecological issues and cysts and PCOS and all, it is just, we have to ask ourselves, is this working for our souls, spirits, and our bodies? Is it working? Is the online dating culture working? Is the TikTok, exploiting the feminine body, sexual, just is that working for us? And if it's not, how can we individually make changes that are going to affect the collective?
Right.
So individually, what we can do is figure out what works for us. If 50-50 for you does not work, then you get to completely own that. If 80-20, and this is just an example, but if being like, supported 80% and you contributing 20% works for you, then own that. If you're a 100%, 0% person, own that. We need to relearn how to listen to our body's truth rather than what society is telling us is true, because our body is so wise. And if 80-20 doesn't work for us and 100% 0% does, our body is trying to communicate that with us, but
Right.
we go against that wisdom over and over again, and we silence that truth, and then we're just walking around on this planet like completely disconnected from the divine feminine wisdom, which has the ability to set things right again, if that makes sense.
Right.
So I kind of went out there, and I'll try to bring it back and simplify. I would say some of the biggest pitfalls that we have been making as a society, and especially as women in the collective, is just really not understanding the value that we bring. I did a training on this where, it's like, we don't realize that, I'll use this example. So there's a meditation I have on one of my podcasts, and it's basically explaining what a situationship does to a woman's body. So situationship is basically a situationship where you're connected to a man, and it's really under his conditions.
Right.
And it's, maybe you see him once or twice a week. He doesn't necessarily take you on proper dates, or maybe he does sometimes, but then he's not really emotionally available or consistent with texting. You don't really know where things are going. You've shared a lot of intimacy, but there's no clear direction. He's in and out, hot and cold. These are just examples of what can happen in a situationship. The reason that this is so detrimental to a woman's body and spirit and soul is basically when a woman gets hooked onto a man, she is feeding him a consistent flow of divine feminine energy. It's life force energy, not just through her sexual energy, whether she's having sex with him or not, but her presence, her attention,
Right.
her validation through words and being there when he texts her. All having her attention gives him energy. And so in this meditation that I do, there we talk about how it's like this, you're like a light source. You're like literally a source of energy. And but this person's kind of using that energy, and
Right.
you're consistently giving and giving and giving and giving, and that person's just kind of using and using and using and using. And at some point you get dimmed out, like your energy just gets
Right.
lower. And at some point you might get so low that that person will be like, oh, I don't feel like that energy is there anymore.
Right.
They'll notice that you're not there anymore. So they'll turn around, they'll walk back to you, give you some attention, turn you on again.
Right.
And then now they have that energy again. But if with that cycle and pattern so often, we get drained. And then at a certain point, like, we can die out.
Right.
Literally, that power source can die out. And then that man can come back and it's like there's nothing he can do, and he just walks away.
Right.
So I know this is kind of an extreme example, but the reason I'm
Oh,
explaining
it's a great example, Amy. I love what you're saying because it's so true. It's so true, and we go through those things, and then the fact that we don't see our value as women is so true. We believe we have to have a perfect body or be super intellectual, smart, and super sexy and successful. And we don't understand what you just so beautifully explained. That just our mere presence is a gift to a man because we have a divine light, and men live in a world that is very black and white. It's very dark. It doesn't have colors. It's like we bring all that, and that is enough. Love it. Thank you.
Yeah. It's so enough, and it is worthy of being supported. It's so enough that we actually are the ones that need the support to keep that light source glowing. When a woman is truly supported, you can think of a woman in your mind who you know that has been supported by a man most of her life, and a woman who has not been supported and has been working and forcing and making things happen. Look at those two women in your mind's eye and really ask yourself, which one glows brighter? Which one you can tell viscerally feels confident and beautiful and empowered and sexy still, even into like her 50s and 60s and 70s? And like, does this other woman, can I tell that she feels that way? When we realize how much we bring to a man's life, we realize we really must reverse that psychological mindset where we think we're the ones that need to prove ourselves to a man.
Right.
I went through these patterns so many times in my past where I was overgiving, I was desperate, staying in unhealthy relationships and situationships, that I got to a point where I was utterly drained, physiologically, in pain. And my adrenal fatigue was like, I was flattened basically. And it took me those experiences to get to a point in my life where it became a non-option to have a man come in and bring stress. And it was kind of like this. I unfortunately went to this extreme where I got to a place where if a man showed up in my life and was clearly there to kind of like take and not bring, there was zero energy for me to give to him. I just knew it. I was like, I have to conserve all that I have for my life, for my animals, for my home, for my friends, my family. The only way you can have access to my life is if you bring energy and you make my life easier and better, if you provide for me, period, like in lots of different ways. So there was another thing I wanted to say, but I'm kind of forgetting it. So I think just really looking at that pattern that we have, and we're the ones that have conditioned men to not show up powerfully.
I agree.
By allowing that behavior. It's not that men are lazy. I thought to myself the other day, it's like, men are not at fault. No one's at fault if we're allowing it.
Right.
If the moment we stop allowing it as women, there's a calling up. And imagine if every single woman just on the same day at the same hour was like, nope, I no
Oh
longer
my
accept
God.
that.
Let's hold the energy for that day. I agree with you so much. If some men can get away with situationships, with all the dark side of relationships, it's because we allow it. The day we stop having sex with them on the first date, taking crumbs, and tolerating poor communication, they will have to step up to the plate. They'll have no option. But it's like a kid. If you bring up a kid and you spoil him rotten, of course he's gonna become a monster. We train them
Yeah.
as to begin with as mothers, and
Mhm.
then as girlfriends and wives. We train them to be in a way. Men are wonderful. They really, really step up to the plate. I truly, truly believe that. But we have to create space for them to be the men.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And all of this is not to talk down or bad about men, but it is to call out behavior that is not okay, and to also be accountable in ourselves of why we are allowing it. I was working with a client, she was explaining kind of a situationship, and I was like, to be honest, if you want to change that behavior and have it no longer happen in your life, the only thing that really, really works is when that behavior, you actually get so grossed out and disgusted by that behavior. That's when it changes in your life. When someone's like, bringing you certain behavior, and it's like, if we're questioning it at all, if we're making it, if personalizing it, making it about us, wondering if we're not good enough, we're not feminine enough, that is going to keep that behavior showing up in our life. But the moment when we're like, that is just so unattractive, that behavior in any man, period, is not attractive, you will flip the power and bring it all back to yourself and realize that, like, that has nothing to do with me. That's just that might be a very attractive man with incredibly unattractive behavior that I don't allow in my life because of the way I value and cherish and protect my peace and my beauty. So it's a gift to hold higher expectations for the masculine. It's what they're wanting from us. That's why they marry the women that do that.
Mm-hmm.
They marry and step up and rise up to the occasion for the women that hold them to that level. So we must do that collectively, in order to bring out the best in them. We have a massive role on this planet for healing, and we are all healers as women. We naturally heal, period. So, yeah.
Right. Love it. Love it. Love it. Would you mind sharing generously, but in a very succinct way, how did you start this journey of being a spiritual mentor and helping women?
Yeah, just my personal experience of
Yeah.
struggling with everything from body image and eating disorders to, um, you know, sexual abuse and heartbreak, everything across the board I've experienced and been there. And through my own healing journey, have figured out what works, I think, not just for myself, but for a lot of women out there.
Right.
And I have just learned how to speak to women in a way that, I at least hope and I've heard that it helps us click into what our real gift is here and our value, and remember that value so that we can show up in our divine feminine.
That's beautiful. I'm sorry that you had to go through all that, but at the same time, I'm so happy that you made it your superpower. It's the hero's journey. It's the hero's journey. Huh?
Yes.
Yes, I love it. There is anything else you would like to share with the audience before we leave?
I think that, yeah, one thing in terms of just like having success in the relationship world is, I talk about something called like the life pie or the goddess life. And we can have a tendency to make love and relationship the most important thing as women. And we make it like 3/4 of the pie, and everything else in our life, from friendships and family and exercise, health, all of it fits into that 1/4 of the pie. And this one area that means so much and matters so much, if we don't have a relationship, our life inherently will feel like a failure because we put that much value on it.
Wow.
What I train my clients to do instead is to split up that pie a lot more and equalize every single slice. So the slice of your health, and your beauty and style, all of those things, each of those things has a slice, and they're all equal. So love and relationship is not bigger than the slice of your relationships with your friends or your family, etc. And then if you're not, and then I highly recommend committing yourself to 100% alignment in your life, 100% alignment in every single area, because then your success is not dependent on having a relationship, which is never going to lead to a healthy relationship. It's
Right.
just not. You have all of these other spaces to fill in and fill up and to bring into alignment. And when you are 100% in alignment with all these other places, you are going to be the woman that you want to be to attract the man that you've always wanted to be. So
That's
just
beautiful.
I would refocus on these other things in your life and know that you don't want to attract someone actually until you are her. You are that version of yourself. Makes a huge difference.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. And I know you have a gift for our viewers. Would you mind to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, it's a quiz that is very educational. It's my feminine archetypes quiz. So the link will take you to a little process where you'll answer some questions, but you'll learn what your divine feminine archetype is, what your main one is. So there's 6: the goddess, queen, maiden, high priestess, seductress, and maiden. Did I say that one already? Anyway, there are, yeah, and they each, basically the divine feminine archetypes that I work with are really here to help you bring out and bring forth all aspects of your feminine energy. So some women are really connected to the goddess and that's their primary, but we want to also work with the ones that we're not as connected to, because that's like your dormant energy, your dormant power as a woman. And it's also where some of your wounds are. So we heal those up and make you this full spectrum divine feminine embodiment. And that's really when we can access our power.
I love it. I love it. The link is below this video, so please go and grab it. I really like that you highlight our strengths, but also show the area of work, the area for expansion. I love that. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.